Back to part 3, guys. We're going to speak to Chris now, Swansea's only professional boxing referee.
Yep.
That's recently happened.
Yep.
You're currently the manager of the gym in the LC2, is that correct?
Health and fitness manager of the LC,
Yes,
yeah.
But like I said, you're a professional boxing referee.
Yeah.
I don't know many referees with the background you have. Mm-hmm. We'll start right at the beginning.
Okay.
You come from a combat background, shall we say. So let's get into that. Where does it all stem from?
All stems from being a 9-year-old doing karate. With the Karate Kid movies and so on. The aim was always to be that black belt, and it was sort of pristine to get to that black belt. So I was very fortunate that my dad's cousin, Gus Gilbert, ran his own karate club in Morriston called Spats. So I joined there, loved it, fell in love with it straight away at the age of, I think I was 9 or 10. After previously trying football and rugby and everything sort of growing up, I fell into the journey, managed to make my way all the way to black belt at the age of 15. And along that way, in order to get you sort of brown belt, purple belt, black belt, you have to sort of referee some small competitions. Right. So doing that sort of process, you're in the middle, you're scoring, you're at the side sort of scoring, and you're refereeing from that. Very small, basic sort of sports hall, karate competitions and so on. But you need to do that to show you'll be able to do official in order to pass your grade in, and so on. At the time when I got a black belt, I wasn't interested then in going towards the first dan, second dan and so on. I wanted to get more into the fighting and the combat. I think I was 15, 16 years old. So I got into the full contact sort of kickboxing side. Sort of training from that, sort of competing, and I was getting from a mat into a ring. So doing 3 2-minute rounds of full contact kickboxing. The contact bottoms on, all kicks above the waist. From there, fairly successful. I managed to get a Welsh title out of it. I got 9 fights in total with 5 wins. But through that time, obviously, started working from the age of 16, 17 in leisure centres, which was shift work. This meant I couldn't train as often. Progressed into having a family, having children. So I sort of took a step back from the sort of training and so on. But I still wanted to be involved in the sport. And that then led me to sort of being a judge, helping out at a kickboxing shows, which I enjoyed. You're still part of the show, and very similar to what Dewi said, you can sit ringside and you're watching that sport and that action taking place there, and the added benefit of being a judge, you get to score it, you get to sort of have your say and determine who wins, is it red or blue.
You were a part of the fight,
You're part of that fight, and you got the concentration level on that. And I got a little bit of a buzz from that. It's what you're scoring and what you're seeing is getting a result for each fighter. And as the sort of sport progressed more, with the kickboxing, there's so many sort of different sanctioning bodies and awarding bodies. It's almost like alphabet spaghetti. There's so many WB, IBFs and ISKAs and so on. But they are trying to sort of streamline it. So I wanted to ensure, if I was going to referee, I wanted to ensure that I had the qualification, I'd done the training behind it, so that if anyone sort of questioned me why I'm in that ring, I can show, look, I'm qualified, I've done the course. I've been active in doing that as well. This then led me to sort of doing ISK qualifications in Birmingham with John Blackledge. That got me to a sort of C license as a kickboxing sort of referee. Did that a couple of shows in Swansea and in something in Cardiff. But then I got my sort of, almost call a big break, doing the white collar sort of scene.
That was the first time I come across you, because my cousin was fighting on one of the shows. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you took a point off him for doing press-ups in the corner.
Possibly.
in the middle of the fight. But, that was my first interaction with you, and that's how I knew you, as you were the referee from the white-collar shows, which were, at the time, the biggest thing in Swansea. It was the biggest night out in Swansea.
It was the biggest night out, and I think it was one of the first, definitely outside, obviously, white-collar boxing emerged from London. What Chris Ware and sort of the Funky Pump sort of show was doing in Oceana nightclub was one of the first away from London, and it was an event.
They were pristine and proper. The guys were in tuxes.
Yeah, we were renting tuxes, full on. It was
a full gentleman sort of dicky bow job, and for that they had proper red corner, blue corner. The training went into it, 12 weeks training and so on. But from a referee's point of view, I wanted to do as professional as I could. So I made sure I was in the sort of black attire or so on. I gave each boxer sort of a rules meeting sort of thing. And I conducted myself as a sort of professional referee would, that I'd seen from previous pro boxing shows. The advantage of that then, other sort of white-collar boxing shows, and even sort of kickboxing shows were popping up around Swansea and South Wales. And a lot of people approached me, can I do their shows? As they thought, I'm quite honest, I'll score it and I'll referee as fair as I can. And that sort of led me to sort of moving about everywhere. What also was emerging at the time is the sort of MMA scene. And then, so when you're doing sort of kickboxing shows, which might have 12 bouts on it, 4 of them may be K1, and 4 of them may be an MMA.
Yes, yeah.
So in order for me, I've never come from an MMA sort of background. I've done a bit of training, a couple of gyms. I thought I need to sort of ensure if I'm going to referee these or judge or score these, I need to know the ins and outs of what an armbar is, what these different choke holds are. So I then did my research, went up to Birmingham and met Mark Goddard, a UFC referee, and he was doing a one-day course which basically focused on the unified rules of MMA. So breaking down the sort of stigma of head shots here, no knee shots here, the unified rules that was being born and created from the ABC in America, which the UFC were adopting. He was bringing it to the UK, and I was sort of in the right place at the right time, jumped on board with him, and he sort of went through how a referee should conduct himself in an MMA, and also the judging and scoring part of that as well. So with that sort of knowledge and that qualification, that opened more shows up. In South Wales, I managed to get on judging with Pain Pit, which then obviously turned across to Cage Warriors Wales. There were a couple of shows in Connecticut that I managed to get on. And I sort of, again, built my name, built my brand and so on. And I was getting recognised and sort of approached to referee and judge MMA and so on. This then led to sort of, whilst all this was happening, the creation of the sort of UK MMAF and the IMAF. So these are sort of two organisations who really want to streamline the sport of MMA, particularly from an amateur sort of background. So the International Mixed Martial Arts, or IMAF, they do European Championships, which have previously taken place in Prague, they've taken place in Birmingham, but they do World Championships, and they actually join in with the UFC on International Fight Week in Las Vegas. They got one coming up now in November in Bahrain, so it truly is an international federation. So with my sort of previously doing it with Mark Goddard, I managed to get my place on the UK MMAF, so the UK sort of arm of the IMAF, on their referees course through Mark Woodard in the Outlaw Gym in Tewkesbury. I managed to meet some very top referees there, like Neil Hall, Dan Mulvahedi, Andy Hay, all these sort of guys on this course with me who are currently refereeing and judging the big sort of Cage Warriors shows, the BAMA shows in the UK. I thought, as well as refereeing, I need to make sure I know how to judge and score a fight. This led to sort of the UK MMAF judges course, which took place in Peterborough with UFC judge Ben Cartledge. David Leatherby was on that as well. So I was getting my name about in the MMA scene, as well as doing sort of the white collar and the kickboxing sort of shows.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at, from maybe just starting refereeing kickboxing and going into the white collar to refereeing at the European Championships? What time frame?
You're probably looking at about 6 years, I want to say.
So you put a fair bit into the MMA side of it.
Like it sounds like it's a quick progression.
It is,
going on in the background.
Again, with Wales, we're not so blessed to have shows all the time, so it was just very sporadic that I could sort of be on these shows. But yeah, it probably is about 6 years of sort of getting in from a kickboxing into sort of that sort of level then.
So it's although we'll go into boxing in a bit, this refereeing, in one way or the other, this was a path you had chosen a long time ago, that you were going to ref in some sort of discipline.
Yes, I enjoyed the aspect of being involved in a fight. I also studied the rules. I studied how a referee conducts himself. I knew that if I made a decision on that split point, it was accurate. Because you have got no time for missing a second. For example, particularly on the MMA, you've got to watch that fighter and know, are you going to step in and stop that fight? Could be too early, or are you going to let him take further punishment? It's too late.
Do you ever probably, before a fight, if you're going to ref any, whether it be a white collar or pro MMA or what have you, do you ever think, I don't want to mess this up? Is there a certain level of nerves, or are you just...
Yeah, there's got to be nerves. But then that almost goes as soon as you're in that ring and you sort of got the two fighters and you're going through your pre-checks, the gum shield, gum shield, so on, going gum shield. Checking the gloves, the nerves are gone, the adrenaline sort of takes over and you're almost doing a spiel. So you're bringing the fighters together and you're doing that spiel in safety and you're away and you're involved, tunnel vision on that fight.
So we've gone from kickboxing refereeing to European amateur MMA in 6 years.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick break, but after the break, we'll talk to Chris about becoming a pro boxing referee. So we'll be back after this.